Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me on episode 26 of The Climb. Today, we're going to be talking about how to get over your sales slump. But before we get into that, wherever you are, go ahead and like, share, comment, troll, whatever it is that you think is necessary to contribute to the show. Please go ahead and do so. We're on most major platforms and streaming live on Facebook right now, as well as YouTube. So today, I'd like to get into talking about sales slumps because we have COVID that's out, coronavirus, whatever you want to call it. So some people may be running into some mental obstacles as well as some real ones. But before we get into that, I'd like to welcome over my partner in climb, David. Why don't you come out here and join us, buddy?
How's it going?
It's going well, man. Flannel today.
Yeah.
All right.
Bringing out the nice shirt.
You're at home. I'm at home. You got the Pro mic. I got the headphones that plug in rather than the snazzy AirPods.
I mean, that's the new normal, right? That's the new normal we hear about.
It is. Well, I had a COVID scare this week. I a little bit of food poisoning. Thought I had a fever. Didn't have one. Just the self check where you think you're warm, just turns out you have cold hands. And
thank goodness.
If you haven't, what's that?
Thank goodness you don't have it.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I'm happy not to have it. But the test may be worse. And I didn't realize this when speaking to others, that when you go for the test, you drive in through the drive-thru and they just jam these Q-tip swabs up your nose where you instantly tear up because it hits the nerves. So you're just leaving there like, oh yeah, what happened? As you're trying to drive out of the parking lot and not hit any of the cones or any of the spacemen that are walking around. So if you haven't been tested, just know that you have a treat in for you. If you're in the Southeast, apparently throughout other parts of the country, they do other things where they like swab your throat or whatnot. But down here in the South, it's like a punch in the face. So now that we got that out of the way, no, it doesn't. Yeah. It's not pleasant at all. All right, so let's talk about how to get out of your sales slump. So as I mentioned just at the top there, a lot of people are just speaking with other agencies are running into situations where they feel like, all right, their leads are down or they can't close as much. So today I want to go over how to get out of that, looking at some of those things. So I know before you and I became one, did you ever go through any sales slumps?
Oh, of course. But, we built our business based on referrals. And so we never really had a sales process. That was one of my weaknesses from the get-go. I just didn't know how to build a sales team, a sales process, and any of that. So did I know we were in a slump? No, because our monthly recurring revenue, which I think is extremely important for any business, was always strong there. And I would consider a monthly retainer client pulling back a slump, because that was our monthly sale. But, in terms of like bringing in new leads, processing that stuff, we just never really had a process in place. And that was one of the driving factors for the merger, was to add that part that I knew I failed to build over the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, no, and that's and it's one of the things that I learned at other companies, and of course it's an interest of mine. It's something that I gravitate toward, but I know there's different types of slumps, right? Because you have your lead flow slump, right? We don't have any business, or we don't have any potential opportunities coming through. And then you also have inability to close, where you just run through multiple situations and you just can't close anything. So right. I think the first thing though is it's identifying, right? That it's like you're in addiction, right? All right, we have a problem. And it's apparent because all right, either A, we don't have leads coming in the door, or B, we're just not closing anything, right? So after that, right, I think that's the primary. I think the next thing to do is to commit, right? You want to commit to getting out of this slump. And that's an important distinction, to literally say like, all right, I know what's happening here and I don't want this to happen anymore. And committing will essentially fall up, a lot of these other points.
What are some signs that you're even heading towards a slump? Like, what are some things that you're looking for? Are there certain KPIs that you're in touch with? What starts to make you nervous?
Pipeline, lack of conversations, right? So pipeline is one thing. So you always want to continually put your pipeline in there. Like for instance, and the importance of a pipeline is thinking like a real estate agent, right? The real estate agents get as many listings as they possibly can, and some of those are going to close. You could be the world's shittiest real estate agent, right? But if you have millions of dollars of listings, they're organically going to close because somebody's like, yeah, I want to live there. Yeah, why wouldn't I? Right? So it's the same thing with your pipeline. Totally. Yeah. So in pipeline, you want to have around anywhere from 4 to like 6 months of your yearly revenue in your pipeline. And that can be pretty hard to achieve. That's a lot of opportunities that have to be gleaned. And it's also taking a real approach to your leads, where some people will just throw pie in the sky numbers in there. Some others will just put like $1 based on just somebody that they've contacted without getting too technical into the pipeline. So those are some things. Seeing a dwindling pipeline is a signal. I would also say, as I mentioned, lack of conversations, not having any of these conversations. And then when you can't close anything, if you have consecutive times where you have been unable to close deals for any of those reasons, whether it's you didn't get the proposal in time, you were outfoxed, underpriced, whatever those circumstances may be, you're continually losing. Yeah, there's a problem, and you have to commit to getting away from that.
So back in the day, I remember how devastating it would be when I didn't close an opportunity. Like the chance to even get the opportunity to put a bid on a project was so rare because we were referral based, which gave us, that gave us an upper hand because it was a referral. But when we didn't get it, God, it felt so devastating because, everything was referral based, and I just, an opportunity was so hard to come by. I just remember how devastating it'd be. I mean, thankfully that didn't happen too often, but man, I would.
No, I've been there too. At the beginning, I started in 2009, 2010. Selling every single lead was so dear that you treat it in an abnormal way, to the point that you're not going to be as authentic and genuine because you have an empty cart and you're trying to sell all these goods from it, right? That that you don't necessarily have. So I remember distinctly multiple situations being right there with you, and then that devastating feeling of losing, and then also the mental game that plays into that it can be tragic. But that's why you just need more opportunities. You need more of those. You need more leads in your pipeline, so you can just be yourself. You can be confident. And you can approach them in a strong way. Which brings up the next point, number 2, which is identify winning, right? So you want to identify what winning looks like. And in doing that, it can be, all right, we currently are getting, 10 leads a month that, fit our ideal, customer profile. But we know we need to get to 20 or 25, or maybe you have no leads, right? And then just getting 1 per month is going to be a great start, and closing that one. Now, granted, it's 100% close rate. The reality there is, meaning you're probably just giving away your prices. But in any event, define what that looks like. This is what it's like to win. So when you have that, you can appreciate what you've accomplished, and you can build on that. All right, we had 1, now we're going to 2, or we're going to 3, or whatever those numbers are. The number 2 point there is identify what winning looks like. And
now, what this is your sales process, and I don't want to jump ahead of it, but I mean, the question that comes to my mind right now is, a lot of people that are watching right now, or that watch our videos, they're looking for a peer group. They're looking for, advice and leadership and how to build their agency. I'd imagine some of them are in like the 2 to 7 year, age range of a business, and they're just getting into that next phase of, what do they do for their sales teams? Like, what are some things that you would say in that kind of growth span that you did to grow to the next level? Like, was it chamber events? Was it networking? Like, where did you generate these opportunities from to even get them in the pipeline?
Which is number 3.
All right.
Which appreciate you teeing it up. It's like you have the list. Which actually, for our audience, he doesn't. Number 3 is when you get into that slump, right? To create those opportunities, literally contact everybody right? So go through your Rolodex, go through your contact list if you don't know what a Rolodex is, and literally contact everybody that you know that might be an opportunity. Even if it's your grandparents, if you're lucky enough to still have them alive, reach out to them and just talk about, what it is that you're doing. Find a way to introduce that subject, because the more people that you talk to, the more likely you're going to find work opportunities. And whether it's the networking, whether it's chamber events, whether it's any of those things, talk to as many people as you can. That's why I think it's important for somebody that's in sales to really understand who they are and have appreciation or a love for other people. Those are very important qualities to be to have it to be a salesperson, and have it to be easier than to not, if you will. But yeah, so to answer your question, Dave, it's talk to as many people as you can. There's actually a question I used to give clients, I forgot about this, where I would say, if you knew that you had to make 1 month's or one payroll in the next 2 weeks, what is every activity that you would do to do that? And they would make a list or whatever. It's like, okay, well, those are the areas that we should focus on right now, because those are wins that we could literally pull money in the door immediately. And that list is something that people can make. And that list usually starts with contacting everybody that they know. Go on LinkedIn. Even if you have this connection, you don't know them, start a conversation with them. Check in with all those people, old clients, new clients, deals that didn't win, whatever you can do.
So what has been, in your experience, the most effective action? Like what is your secret sauce?
It's I don't think there's one thing to give away. I think it's a list of activities. But the main thing is being with people. I love people. I love getting on the phone with somebody or having a conversation. That's one of the most important things, is just.
So live networking events versus phone call. Which do you prefer? Face-to-face or over the phone?
I think it depends on the networking event. If I'm going to one where I'm going to meet somebody that, walks dogs, sells cars, and is also a nurse at the same time, like, I don't want to, that's not really going to work out for the business benefit. Granted, I love meeting people, and I've met an individual like that where we were at a networking event, and it was like, hey, I'm John Sarakis, how are you? And he's like, my name's Rick, and I save lives. I was like, oh, wow, Now, granted, I was like, all right, was this guy like a doctor or something? He's like, no, I sell Hondas. It's like, oh, okay. Well, thanks a lot, Rick. And that was a sales pitch. So I want to steer clear away from those, because it's just, everybody has this intention of just trying to sell rather than just, really connect, network, and link others with other people. That's essentially the idea of networking. So I think it just depends on that event. If it's like a really cool one, then yeah, I'm completely down for it. Or, one-on-ones are always great too. Maybe not the answer you're looking for.
No, I used to do a lot of face-to-face networking that I pretty much pulled out of, because I just thought most of the, what we do is professional services, and as a, professional services, you need to have, I feel like networking events are too full of real estate agents, insurance salesmen, like that. They're D2C. Yeah, and as B2B, there's not a great resource to network B2B. And I mean, I guess you could say the chamber. I guess you could say there's some other organizations, but
or organize them. I would do breakfasts, right? So I would have a couple breakfasts that I would have with local people that were interesting. Did I get a ton of business from it? No, absolutely not. Was I able to connect other people? Yeah, and it's good. And I love eating food.
That might build your referral network.
It did, yeah. And there was definitely some that came from it. Others, I would say, profited much more from it, but that's not the point. The point is just getting people together and having that network where they're going to link you up with other people. But yeah, this is anybody that's in an agency. If you're getting, you're not really going to get a ton from anybody that's continually interfacing with tons of people, because you are just one of many, right? So if you're like, you want referral sources, people that are like, in insurance, like, dude, like, they're turn and burns. Like, anybody that's in like the brokerage side of things, they're turn and burns. Like, so like real estate, you're not going to see those. You need to find strategic partners that are linked up to what you're doing. And those could be technology partners. We're getting a little bit off topic here, but those could be technology partners of platforms that you use. There could be strategic partners with agencies that are similar to yours that have a different specialty. For instance, there's an SEO agency. You're a paid search agency, and you don't do one or the other. Those are things to explore. There's also professional services. For instance, some accountants might be a good referral source based on them seeing businesses where they know the marketing is not working well. So I think it just really depends. But yeah, I mean, you sometimes have to dig through the shit to find some of those really good opportunities. But granted, I know good people that are real estate agents as well as insurance brokers. They're never going to send me any business, but they're good people to meet. I think it's just having a love for people that's important as well.
Sure.
Ready for number 4?
Number
4 is speak to a current client. That's an important one. A lot of people forget about. If you're in a slump, or your current clients, just find out what's going on in their world and get an understanding of what it is that you're saying that attracted them. I remember one time, I guess maybe I was in a slump. I talked to an old client. This is actually, knock on wood, a client we still have. And I was just checking in with him to see how he was doing. An account manager was managing the account for the most part, but I still like to check in. And he said, I remember the first question you asked me when we sat down in your office. So I was like, oh, really? What was that? He said, if you're not willing to grow, you need to get up out of your chair and leave right now. So are you willing to grow your business? And I was like, damn, I love that. I was aggressive, but he worked, and it set expectation in the context for the rest of the conversation. I walked to the conversation, showed him that I was a professional, and it's the truth. If you're not willing to grow your business, and you're a marketing agency, then those two things really just don't correlate. The maintenance side of it's not really interesting to myself, and I doubt it's interesting to others. So based on setting that basis, that's now his framework for working with us all the time. He's continually like, all right, well, if I'm going to work with this company, I have to be committed to growing. And of course, we've been committed to growing his business, and it's taken off. Well, I was able to take that into other conversations as well. And not necessarily maybe being that aggressive, but using that in my sales story to others was beneficial. And I still use that to some extent, especially when it comes to, non-dev accounts and marketing accounts.
Well, companies that are looking to add marketing or anything, any kind of service, when they're not committed to it and doing anything, why are they even looking for it? I mean, you can tell, like, when a client comes to you and they're just, somebody told them they need SEO. You can tell that lead, and it's like, all right, we're not going to do anything amazing here because you don't know why you're even talking to me right now. So
we had that the other day.
Yeah,
we had guy that was a referral that it was a referral from one of our strategic partners that sends us a lot of referrals, and he said, well, you're doing amazing results for this company. I want you to help us as well. It's like, oh, okay. We looked into everything that he was doing, and there is nothing we can do for this guy. Like, everything's going as good as it was. Like, well, we got nothing to sell. But he really wanted just to work with us based on that. And it was like, all right, well, there's not going to be a commitment. There's nothing to sell here, so we need to walk away. I mean, I think that's the best version of that situation.
Right.
But then there's the other one where you have, like you're saying, where somebody is just not going to do what's necessary so we can be successful. They're not going to take an interest in their business, and that's also a non-starter.
Sad.
It is, but I see it all the time. Yeah, see it all the time. It's like you said, and I think it's a box to be checked. Like, they go to whatever, I just picture this like oak room, right, with like cigars and like, a little bit of scotch, during these big leather chairs, and it's like, yeah, I have an SEO company too. It's just
That's why the first thing that pops into my head is a legacy business where it's, the son, and he doesn't respect the amount of hustle that the previous generation had to do to build it to that. And so that's what pops into my head. I mean, it's just, it's sad, but I mean, to each their own, different strokes for different folks. And, I wish I had a legacy business that was just handed to me and I could just sit back and puff cigars. But unfortunately, I had to hustle.
Yeah, I think it's you don't want it, right? It's what is it? The first generation builds it, the second generation, sinks it, and the third generation revives it. there's some kind of, like saying in family business there. I worked in a family business. It's brutal. Yeah, it's the expectation.
I think Ford operated sort of like that. I mean, you in terms of Ford's like overall arc. I mean, it's in the upswing right now, right? We'll just compared to like its doldrums of the 80s and 90s. I don't know. I'm definitely not a car.
Yeah, I wasn't going to touch that. I was just thinking all I know of Ford lately is that they're not making cars anymore except for the Mustang. And it stops there, which brings me to point number 5.
All right.
Old accounts. So old accounts can be accounts that have maybe graduated and gone on to somebody else, or they could be accounts that you were just unable to close, or even accounts that you have that you want to upsell. So I know a lot of people, when you've lost account, some people could say like, well, screw them, they didn't like us or whatnot. They had a relationship with you, and chances are their other relationship that they went to may not have been as good as the relationship they had with you. So it behooves you to reach out. And I've done this where people have left and we've checked in and they're like, oh, thank God, this is terrible where we're at right now. Please help us. They may have been too embarrassed to contact you. So I think when it's an old account, when they left you, definitely reach out. Granted, I mean, there might be some scar tissue there. Work through it. Maybe you owe them an apology. On the other hand, if they're accounts that you didn't close and you lost for another reason, those are definitely accounts that you should reach out to, or leads rather. Just they have some type of affiliation with you. You have a place to start. Just go through that list and contact them. In some cases, if you have a business as old as ours, there's hundreds of those instances where you can reach out and check in. If it was a company that didn't have the budget at the time, maybe they've blossomed and grown into something else that is more fitting for you now.
I mean, I hear when you say that, and something I've lived by, don't burn bridges. I mean, there's so many opportunities, like when you have a client that's potentially leaving, to just, say, F off, dude, or, but no matter what the situation is, if you don't burn that bridge and you truly believe in your service offering, no matter what business you can go get them again. We have seen it time and time again. And in fact, right now, we have a client that we're bringing back because they got so screwed by the person that they went to. I mean, they're heading into a legal situation, and they're just like, please, can we come back? And we're helping them unwind that, so that they can come back and they can get what they need. Because we did good work for them when they were our customer. Now currently the only reason why they went to another one, it was a local. They weren't local for us, and they went with a local company, and this local company screwed them. So, hey, they're coming back. So 100%, we have a 10-year history of clients that we've worked with. And I think that is the value and the power of having account managers that continually go back and check for those clients, because there is, I call it mining. There's people that say hunting, farming. Well, there's mining, and you can mine. Yeah, I mean, it could be a gold mine. It could be a bust, but there could be a ton of business in that old book of business, because it's not like we're Coca-Cola where people are just on the top of mind going, I want a Coke. We're a small services company, and if you don't get back in front of them after 6 years, they're not thinking of you. I mean, maybe they are, but the chances are they're just going to go to Google.
Yeah, and then I think the other point too is the relationships, right? So don't burn the bridges or nuke them. These people may have moved on to other companies, your contacts. Those companies may have been merged with others. There's so many different things that can happen. And based on that first point of commitment, it's having that positive attitude and being enthusiastic about the approach and looking at like, all right, what's possible here? There's all this hope if you want it to be there. And it's amazing what you can find. Like, the one of our account managers reached out to the company that you're talking about, and it's this fantastic situation where we get to be the hero. We get to save them from the local demon that has screwed them over, and that's who doesn't want to be in that position and also make a little bit of money along the way.
Yeah, it's a good story. It's a good feeling, and I mean, again, that person is going to turn into a great referral hub for us because we saved them, and anytime they hear, any of their, friends that are in a small business that complains about a tech team, instantly they're going to go, oh, you know who saved us? Oyova. So that's where I want to be.
Yep, I'm a firm believer of that as well, which brings up point number 6. Point number 6 is don't sell, just help. It might sound contrarian or counterintuitive, but what I mean by that is just do that. So literally find out how you can help other companies based on if they're already working with another agency or another technology company, development partner, whomever. Why don't you take a look at what the current work is that they're doing? Why don't you give your expert opinion? If you're in the middle of a sales process and you don't think it's going to be a good fit, then tell them that and just say, I would rather work with you at no charge to help you select the best partner because I don't think we're going to be a good fit for you. Just helping in any way that you can will eventually lead to a sale just based on that relationship. And who knows, it might be something else that that fits. For instance, we had a circumstance here a few weeks back where there was somebody that didn't have a budget at the time. So we said, well, your budget's not going to fit what we're looking for, but we will help you find another partner. And then 2 weeks later, magically, by going through that process, they now have the budget to work with us, and we're next in line to potentially win that account because we took the position of we're here to help. We're not necessarily here to sell. And that is a great place to come from to help close more businesses, especially in a slump, and find opportunities that weren't there before. And of course, build that long-lasting relationship.
So I agree with what you just said. I'm also going to take the opposite perspective and play a little devil's advocate here, though, because I have been in that situation, and I feel like I turned it down. Somebody asked me to kind of come on board, and yes, they would pay me to just review what another company was doing, and I said, you know what, I just don't think that's a healthy situation because, especially in technology, you're always going to be critical of other people and what they're doing. And I don't want to get into well, they're doing it wrong. And well, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And because I felt like that would have put a strain on it. And I just kind of said, look, if it doesn't work out and you want to come back to us, I would love to work with you. But I feel like if I was inserted into the process, that I would cause more issues with the process, then I would help with it. And I didn't want to be. I mean, how many times have you worked with a client that they are bringing in an outside consultant to work, make sure what you're doing is right, and that relationship always sucks.
So just so I understand, was this a current client or was this a new potential client?
Past client, actually.
Okay. All right.
So current client where their client was selected another company.
Got it. So were we or you being replaced in that situation?
We didn't even really get a chance to bid. So, they were making a decision to it was a cost decision. They were sending the work to a overseas development company. And so even though the middle client was against that, they had to agree with that, and then they were asking me to come in as like a technical consultant to make sure that the outsourced company is doing things right.
Got it. I'd say it's a little bit different because you're not building the relationship there. You currently have the relationship. You're losing business, and you're like, it sounds like it's kind of personal. Like, all right, there's a little bit of scar tissue here. I'm losing it, and then you're potentially looking at it like I'm going to be biased. Because that's no matter what. How can you recuse yourself and be objective when you're literally watching money that you had walk out the door?
Yeah, but that wasn't really that isn't the accurate framing. Just because we weren't currently getting work for that client.
Okay.
And we didn't even know that they were changing or like that. We didn't lose any business because of it or any of that. It was purely just out of nowhere. Hey, can you be a consultant for this client?
Yeah, I think that would have been a great opportunity to look at it, to build and foster that relationship. It's easy. It's like it doesn't work.
But from my perspective, and this is a lesson that a lot of business owners need to learn and learn fast, is if you build your business around your personal effort, then you have already built in your cap for how big your business can grow. And for me to take this project and come in as a technical consultant on that was my time, not building my business. So that was another factor that factored in. I was like, I don't want to spend 5-10 hours a week on this one project that we're not even getting the work for.
Yeah, I think that's a bit different. I mean, if it's going to be 5 to 10 hours per week in this like ongoing thing, that's different. That's a long-term consulting project. What I'm talking about is helping somebody select another provider. Yeah.
Sure.
I mean,
sure.
Yeah, it's not like, hey, sign me. You need gardening? Yeah, I'll do your garden. I mean, that's not helping. I mean, that's literally putting yourself out, and I don't think that's going to be an equitable situation.
Right.
Which brings me to my next point, number 7. Call a competitor. That also might sound contrarian, but if you're in a slump and you want to find out what's really going on, of course, there's peer groups, which are super important. That's on the list as well. Of course, is the DMG essentially what's hosting the climb. But calling a competitor, this is something that I recommend. Checking in with them, having lunch with them, or a virtual lunch, while you have your homemade turkey sandwich or burrito, is something that I recommend. The things that you'll find out are amazing. Maybe they've gone after some of those same accounts where you're going to be able to talk shop. Maybe they're running into pricing issues, sales issues. People also love to brag. It's not that they're going to give you, they may, but they're most likely not going to give you, the dirt that is going to help you, steal an account for them. I mean, that would be really silly. But telling you of like what's working and what's not, people love to tell those stories. And when it comes to sales too, the salesperson is also going to know that it's the person that's flying the plane, not necessarily the plane. So number 7 is something that I highly recommend. It served me very well over my career. Call a competitor.
That's ballsy.
You think so?
I would never think to do that. I think that's straight ballsy, and that's awesome that you do it. I could not see myself doing that.
Yeah, no, I think it's been great. And they usually are like, oh, okay, they'll talk. Some don't, right? Some think they have some secret sauce, and you're like, okay, all right, yeah, go fuck yourself. You really don't have anything. We're all essentially doing the same thing. It's just, some of our processes that also take accountability and enforcement, because you can get somebody's process book, but if you're not going to enforce an account and believe in what it is, and also the people that you have, it's all of those soft, intangible things that, really, really bring out a lot of the success.
So what do you talk to them about? I mean, you're like, hey, let's collaborate, or what are you feeling out there? What do you see out there? I mean,
all the above. Yeah, and just get in their world and just have conversations with them about all those different things.
They pick up the phone, they're like, hello? What's your icebreaker? How do you jump into that?
It's lunch. I'd love to take you out to lunch. And I don't think there's any reason that we can't have a conversation. Yeah, we're both in the same industry. But I think there's more that we have to learn from each other than not. And yeah, it's usually well received. And that's also another reason, like with the digital mastermind, a lot of people might think like, oh, why would I get into a group with my competitors? Well, that's called scarcity thinking. Stay small, pal. The real people that want to grow understand the benefit, and that there's more to gain than lose in those situations.
Absolutely. I mean, all the time, DMG has been invaluable to the growth of my business. So it's, and it would, we wouldn't have this merger if it wasn't for DMG and a peer group. So, I mean, there's a lot of growth that's come from that. There's a lot of value that's come from that. I mean, if anyone out there is like afraid to get in a peer group, I mean, stay small.
God help them. But I think that's also the point too, is anybody that, rejects you on that, and, to be a good salesperson, you have to have, confidence, right? You have to know what you're getting into and know what you're capable of rising to essentially any occasion. But if somebody's like, no, and they give you some kind of like whiny, complaint of like, your competitors and whatnot, that company's probably not doing its best at that point. Like, so that's just something else good to know. Not that you would report that anywhere or broadcast it, but just based on the way that you go about your day. And you got to think, if the other one's willing to accept, like, all right, that's a healthy company. That's a really good competitor, just based on that. And the relationship could lead to a merger, could lead to, other fantastic things, or even co-ops working on projects together. Yeah, we don't do this. You guys do this. So
Specialties. Yeah,
yeah,
information's
exactly.
power. I mean, knowing what companies out there are eager to grow and eager to play off each other. That's power.
Which brings up my next point.
Ooh.
Number 8, education and inspiration. I bundle these two together. Somebody might want to unpack them, but I think they're both the same thing. For instance, listening to podcasts, right? Videos on YouTube, whether it's a speech from Al Pacino and any given Sunday to get the hairs raised on your neck if you got to pick up a phone, which not a lot of people pick up phones anymore, or to send that email, or is it just a podcast like this or another one where you're gaining information? So I think education and inspiration are highly correlated. And of course, as I mentioned, the DMG group, peer groups, that's also a place to go, whether it's in the forum that one of them may have, or just contacting some of the other members, or just researching any of the content that they've also produced. Education and inspiration can be a huge component, but I give that with a caveat. Don't rest on that. Don't continue to get ready. You are already ready. So if you're not taking action and you're just looking at these other things that you want to fall in line as if something miraculous is going to happen, you're selling yourself short and you're going to, screw yourself over. You really need to just take the action to send out the email, send out that LinkedIn message, contact that old client, new client, whatever it is, move forward. You don't have to try to create this beautiful plan or look at, somebody else and create, this comparison of you need to be there. No, move forward because you have the power and you are already ready. And you need to know that.
So that was great advice, but I have to break in. We have some urgent news here. We just received our very first The Climb live comment while somebody's watching this video. And there's
somebody
a button,
we know?
yes. And there's a button here that I can click that says show. And I don't know what it does, but I want to click it and I want to see what it does. Are you ready for this?
This could be like, hey, I hate you.
We have to be ready to discuss it. So here we go.
All right, here we go.
Boom.
This is super insightful. Okay.
So Brandon Smith, first live commenter of The Climb. This is super insightful. Well, I agree with you, Brandon Smith.
It's very kind. Thank you, Brandon. Yeah. All right. And more comments from others. Yeah, I would love that. Yeah, appreciate the pat on the back there. It means a lot.
Yeah, I would love to get more people hitting us with questions on this live show. I would love to turn The Climb into a 50% segment that says, bring us your marketing, business, and just in general challenges. Challenge us. Let's see what we can help you with.
Yeah. I was doing the speaking engagement last night. I got a couple of challenging questions in there. There was one that I could not answer. I had to tell them. Could you answer the question? I knew you were on it.
Well, I was nervous for you at first because at first they were like, well, we have one question and if you could please submit it. And then by the time you answered the first question, they had a whole list of questions. I was like, all right, great. They were good. I was actually really impressed. And I think you were planning on we're going to do a show based on that presentation you gave. But I guess just tell the audience a little bit about what you did last night.
Yeah. So speaking for...
But 1 second. This actually kind of tees up everything we're talking about right now. This is a perfect example of what you did to help generate sales and leads, and so it does tie in.
Helping others, it's a local. It's a National Association, American Advertising Foundation or Federation. I can't remember what it is, and they have local chapters. So it was a local chapter here, and they asked me to speak on the relationship between design and technology. So helping out others, right? It goes into that. Speaking if you wanted to get a finer point to it, but regardless, long as you're helping, and that's essentially what that was. I gave a talk on design and technology, and there was questions at the end, which were there was some great questions, and it was a great group of people. I was really happy to do that, and I guess that is going to be my Siracusa topic today. I'm going to go into my presentation. I dig it. But to that last point, if you can find speaking engagements based on your expertise and what you have, whether you are the agency owner, whether you're just doing the lead generation for marketing, whether you're doing business development for sales, take those opportunities. Don't be afraid and just get out there and be willing to fail, fumble, make mistakes, and things get better along the way. And also, don't give yourself permission to fail, but also don't judge yourself along the way. That's literally not going to do any value. You can say, all right, hey, this is how I can continually get better, but just keep taking the actions necessary and you will mold forward. Think about like a river rock, right? That's in a river. Right? It's all jagged one day, but throughout time, granted it's a lot of time, but throughout time it becomes this smooth, beautiful, this river stone. It's the same thing. At no other point do you just continually just keep moving forward, and things will continually get better. If you're taking positive actions, right? If you're taking negative actions, of course they're not. Like, cursing out people on the phone or something. I mean, that's a bit ridiculous. But if you're continually trying to get better, you will get better if you're taking those actions.
I think a lot of people don't realize that it takes a lot of getting smashed against heavy rocks in order to smooth out that stone, though. All right, we did. You ask and you shall receive. We have gotten our first live show question.
Oh, really? Let's get it. All right. If a potential client doesn't go with you, what's your advice on following up with them to leave the pitch process on a positive note? That actually is a really good question. I think it's setting up like, hey, understanding why they chose somebody else. That's inherently important. You want to know why they decided to go with another company, and so of course you can get better from that. I think the other point to that is to ask, what could you have done better in your process? Those two things aren't always inherently linked. And after that, I think it's smart to set a check-in date. Like, hey, I just want to check in with you, whether it's 3 months, 6 months down the road. This has worked very well for us based on setting up that cadence. And to give one perfect example, we wanted to sell a strategy discovery before this crazy website. They had all these different things they wanted to do. It was super unorganized. It didn't make any sense to us. So at that point, we're like, well, we can't quote it. So we need to figure out what we need to do to create a scope so we can then quote that. They weren't interested in that. This other company promised them, the world for, I want to say like, $40,000. And in that, we're like, all right, well, that's awesome. It doesn't make sense to us because we would out of the gate say this had to be at least 90, but that's fine. So what we'll do is we'll just check in. So I remember checking in 3 months later. They're like, no, this is amazing. They're doing everything that they would, said they would do. And then checking in like 4 months later and like, yeah, everything's fine. They gave me the impression that I was being a little bit, irritating and annoying. I was like, all right, well, I'll push out to 6 months. 6 months calling in, they're like, yeah, this company totally screwed us over. We have nothing to show us. And they clearly didn't understand the project. Yeah, these are all the things that we said at the beginning of that, but it's not an I told you so moment. It's more of a, all right, cool. What can we do to help you in this situation? And the I guess told you so moment was like, so do you want to do that discovery now? And they said, yes, we'd be more than happy to. So hope that answers your question. I think that was a great one. Essentially, leave off in the best terms possible, figure out where you were, in that sales process, why you didn't win it, why the other person did win it, and what is the cadence to follow up after.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much nails it right there. I mean, if there's a project that we know that we're just a great fit for, like the projects that I really want, I follow up. I mean, you should follow up on all projects that you don't get. But the ones that I'm like, damn, we really were perfect for that, I follow up personally with it because I'm like, I know you're not going to get as good as what we could do.
Yeah,
and
it
works.
The ones that haunt me, though, not to cut you off, are the mysteries. Like that was a mystery to me. Like, right. How in the fuck could somebody else even quote this thing? Like that says like, okay, because you instantly go to either they know something that we don't, right? Which I want to know what that is.
Sure.
Or B, we're not doing it to the best of our abilities, right? And in this situation, no. The other company either A, didn't know, or B, was malicious and lied about it.
All right.
Which brings up number 9. Actually, it doesn't bring up number 9, but it's essentially number 9 time. Number 9 is make time. You got to block off your calendar. So make the time necessary to do all these activities or whatever it is that you are doing to create sales or market out of your sales slump. A lot of those two things can get inextricably confused. I think both people should look at sales and marketing as almost the same thing for the most part. What is it going to do to get, retain, and keep customers, and essentially generate revenue from that? So blocking off the time on your calendar, it's something that I highly recommend. Nobody defaults to cold calling. So blocking out time, whether it's you're doing your cold emails or whatever system you're using that to see the reports, make sure that you have the time that you're going to do these things. If you're working on proposals, that should also be scheduled. Schedule everything. The more organized you are about your approach, the better. And granted, if the phone rings, yeah, you're gonna get interrupted. You should answer it because it could potentially be an opportunity. But take the initiative to block off time on your calendar and be accountable to yourself to follow through.
So I think that's a super valuable point that a lot of business owners don't learn fast enough, because years 0 through 5, your client owns your calendar, right? Doesn't it feel that way? I mean, you're going to do, yeah, I'll take that call. Work at night, whatever, you're going to do whatever it takes. And then you start realizing I'm being, beat around like a rag doll, and I need to start, so I started in my journey. I was like, okay, on Monday from 9 a.m. to noon, no meetings. I mean, that was my first, putting my foot in the sand and saying, no more. And then that just kind of turned into no Mondays meetings at all. No Mondays. And you do have to learn to just own your calendar. And I tell even, some of our director level, just block it off. Stop taking calls. People can't schedule you, and you need to own that so that you can have your time to do what you do and think through things, because you'll get overwhelmed and then all of a sudden you have no time for anything. So, but we just got our second question. Are you ready for this one?
I sure am. Let's see what we got. Oh, Marjorie Kavanaugh, who's like, all right. Thank you so much, Marjorie. As business owners, how do you differentiate yourselves amongst so much competition? That is that.
Great question.
Yeah, that's tough, especially in what we do, because we face a lot of foreign labor, which could essentially be less expensive. I think it's understanding your position in the market, first off, right? You're not going to be the least expensive, and that's also part of the conversation that you need to have. But I think differentiation is also created based on the sales stories. So what have you been able to achieve? What have you accomplished for other clients? And giving those examples, and be willing to have a phone call with your client or a video presentation, almost like you're doing a demo based on what you've done before. So I think the main point of differentiation is tapping into, agencies, whether it's portfolio and design. I mean, we're more on the dev side. I mean, so if you have something that's spectacular and beautiful, that's a point of differentiation. But also, what was the functional outcome of your work? So what is that sales story that you can tell can be a huge differentiator?
So for me, how I'd answer that is, you mentioned it with the whole foreign competition. I mean, we are basically an internet business. We are competing globally. Every single person with a keyboard and an internet connection can compete with us. And so what I did is I looked at what is the typical interaction with one of those companies. And it all drills down to customer service. The servicing of the actual customer interactions is terrible, or mostly terrible. There's some companies that do it well, but on the average, do it terrible. So when I thought of that, I went, okay, I need to double down on customer service. And especially as an IT company or a technology related company, there's so many bad there's so many companies that do it so poorly. I mean, IT has a general, feeling that it's just, who wants to work with IT? I don't want to call IT, So if we can change the way people think about IT working with us, we've differentiated ourselves probably already from 80% of the market, just right there. And then with that last 20%, we can say, all right, hey, we're local. You're a Florida business, or you're a St. Peter, you're a Jacksonville, or hey, we're East Coast. We're the same time zone. We're all in the U.S. We don't use overseas talent. I mean, we try to connect on that level, or if that's important to them. Or, after that is we have experience working on things. I mean, the great thing about, kind of growing up for the last 10 years as a business, we've worked on all kinds of things. And if you can talk to your client about a relatable project, boom, you're in. So I think customer service is absolutely number one. And if you haven't mastered that as a business, you're going to fail eventually.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree with that, and I think it also taps into that sales story, right? So that what is going to adapt with them most based on what you have from a point of differentiation.
Yeah.
And then we have another comment from Marjorie. So good about the year results. Thank you so much, Marjorie Kavanaugh of Panoramic Resumes. Everybody, really
Boom.
appreciate the question. Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, we got another one. This one's from YouTube. This is our first going live on YouTube. This is the first episode that's going live on YouTube. So great to see that we're already getting some feedback.
Yeah. All right. So what's the question? Okay. So you want to go ahead and tee it up, Dave? Want to read it out?
Given the pandemic, should you discount your services to maintain clients, or should you put the contract on hold until the client can pay the full price? Interesting question.
Yeah, I think that depends on circumstances and how big that discount's going to be, right? Because if you want to share in what's going on right now, right? So if it's a small discount based on just trying to, like, all right, hey, look, this is where our number's at. This is where you need to be. Let's say it's a $50,000 contract and they're asking you to discount it by like $1,300. Like, okay, all right. I mean, you can tap into your margin, based on that. I think that's if you're willing to win. On the other hand, if they're saying like, all right, it's 50,000, you got to do it 25,000, you're not going to make any money. So I think that's ridiculous, and that's not sharing in the situation based on what's going on.
Right, but losing the contract as well is you're not making any money as well. And so
yeah,
I think the pandemic really this is nobody's gone through this, right? This is not something that anyone has experience with. But early in the COVID issue, like early February, we did run into this issue, and I think we handled it really well. We had one of our clients come to us and like, our sales have cratered. We need to pull back. We can't afford that. And we did a huddle and said, what ideas can we come up to help them navigate this issue and help them sell in the issue, and help them, not grow, but just stay, just continue to do business in this issue. And I thought we came up with some great ideas and great options. And I think, it's a reality that people are going to pull back spending during any kind of crisis, like economic downturn, a pandemic, whatever it is. And if you can get into their business and say, all right, how do we, sell in this environment? Because look, you see the national brands on TV right now with their marketing, they're leaning into it. So if you can help your client lean into the issue and maybe buy in, or maybe you can push out some payments into the future and kind of do like a little finance deal and say, hey, we're going to continue our commitment. We're going to come up with these ideas and give it a try for 3 months. And then when we come out the end, because there's going to be an end, right? This isn't going to be the new, forever. And then maybe you can come back with that. I think we saw some success with that when as we've navigated.
I think there's one other point to put on that though is also the concessions, right? So if it's take the $50,000 engagement, you have all these different things in there. All right, what are the lowest impact things that you can take out of that to win that deal, right? And if you can get it down to the price. So it still feels like it's not necessarily a discount, and both parties still
you just broke up right there. What was that last point?
It's so you empower the client, by saying like, hey, we can take these out, right? It's not a discount, and you get the price where it needs to be, and both parties still win.
Also, I mean, if you're just thinking about it from like a account management perspective, you don't want to lose the client in total. You don't want to, because when the recovery happens, you want them coming right back to you, not saying, hey, we need to find some marketing. But great question from Trent Knox from watching us on YouTube. So that was great.
Yeah, appreciate the question.
All right. So is it time for the Sirakas topic?
Yeah, I got 3 more that I can fly right through. I know, man. This sales slumps are important. Sales slumps are important.
Okay, damn.
The number 10, and granted, some of these are some of the soft ones. You got to be nice to yourself. I mentioned it earlier. Don't judge yourself, but be nice to yourself in all these processes and all of your failings. Just appreciate them, that you're going to be moving forward, that things will get better if you take the positive actions necessary and commit to what you want to accomplish. And save these two for last because I think a lot of people look at these at the beginning and they want to blame them rather than looking at themselves and the way that they're going about trying to generate sales. But they are super important. You have to look at your offer and your pricing at a certain point, right? If you consecutively lost, deals and you're getting, priced out of the market, there's that. And then the other side of things is looking at your offer. Like, what is it that you're offering? What is it that you are selling? What is it that you are saying? What is that message, right? And sales story is a part of it, and I've touched on that, but I didn't make that one of these points. And then that's number 11. Number 12 is what is your sales process? How do you go about selling? So also super important, but I would look at the other points of who you are, the person in that relationship of sales, rather than focusing on the other ones first.
So the point number 11, I think it was 11 with the offer. I mean, obviously you're talking about if you're slumping or been in a slump, your offer is not resonating with the customer. So you need to look at, how can you change the offer? How can you address their pain points more effectively? How can you, present your offer in a way that's going to help them? Because look, when it comes down to it, everyone's looking for someone to help them do more business. Mm-hmm. And if your offer is not resonating with that, if they don't feel like your offer is helping them with that, you don't got a sale at all. So, your offer is, and that's what's tough about our business. In a service-oriented business, what is your offer? Your offer is my time and my expertise and my experience.
Right. Yeah, it is, right? But I think it's also it's the solutions. That's what somebody's going to find value in. Like, what can you solve? Problem is there that they can solve. And the reason I have these last is because these are what I would call they could be time sucks where you're getting ready to get ready, right? So if you in a world, if you just pick up the phone or send out a ton of emails and you have just something super basic. Everybody gets these, right? So it's just like, we offer web development or SEO from blah, 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 and they send it from some damn Gmail address. Okay, well, if that didn't work, they would not be doing that. There is almost no offer in those emails, right? From, the circus and all the clowns that are sending that over. But and it comes from whether it's, in the United States or all over the world. But if you actually craft something with that same message and then you send it out at the same veracity that they are, you're going to, get something. But you could work on that message for weeks or months until you get it right. So take the other steps necessary. And the same thing with your sales process. You're going to keep refining your sales process? No. Put something simple together, get out there, make some mistakes, and see how it works.
I think action just is so important. Like when...
Yeah.
I see a lot of people are like, all right, I'm going to make a plan to do this. And my plan is that. And it's all paper. And it's all like, I've got to get oriented. And it's like, no, just get out there and start talking to people. Get out there and incrementally improve your pitch or your offer or whatever it is, because that's where the, rubber meets the road. Like, you're not going to refine anything in in Google Sheets or, in a Word document, because nobody else is critiquing what you're doing. You need to feel that real feedback. I mean, if somebody just laughs at you, then you're not on the right path. So
yeah, exactly. And those are the people that are getting ready to get ready. You could say, like, would you rather be, homeless and looking perfect and pretty, or would you rather be a little bit dirty, in your empire? I think it's just, all right. You got to roll up your sleeves and you got to get to work, because it's not about looking good. It's about, taking the actions necessary to get the work done.
Everyone wants to be a little dirty.
Deep thoughts with Dave. All right. So you ready? You want to do Dave? Let's do Dave by the numbers. Let's start with that. I'm interested to hear this. I'm
all right. By the numbers. All right. So I thought about this all week, and I really started to form that. I've had this thought for quite a while, and I want to put it out there 5. So I believe in 5 years, it takes 5 years to change your life. And what I mean by that is anything you start, anything you try to do, when you start with zero experience or you haven't just starting on your career, just starting on this job, or just starting this business, it's going to take you 5 years to find out if you're going to change your life. You're either going to make it or you're not. And I was talking this idea with John, and John instantly kicked back and said, well, Malcolm Gladwell has the 10,000 hours till you become an expert. And then I quickly did the math for him, and I said, well, it's 2,000 hours in a working year. And so, 5 years. After 5 years, you've changed your life. Now, my anecdote that I like to bring up is I helped a good friend of mine start a business. And for the first 3 years, it was always, when am I going to make the big money like you? And when's my life going to change? And I just kept saying, look, it takes hustle. It takes a long time for you to get the results that you see other people and other entrepreneurs getting. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't get it day one. I mean, sure, there's the rare startup that just blows up out of nowhere. But for the most part, real business takes time, hustle, energy, and dedication to make that happen. So I always told him, wait till year 5. And I hope he listens to this because, it's been about 5 years since we started that business. I've actually sold my half to him. He now is full owner. He has completely achieved that level of success he was looking for in years 0 through 3. And yes, I know this is a one anecdotal story, but I firmly believe in the 5-year idea because it worked for me as well. I mean, years 0 through 5, there wasn't a ton of profit being made at Oyova. I just had a job. And I was able to make jobs for other people. But, year 5 started to change things. I started to see profit. I started to see, growth that was like significant and not just, small increments. So I really believe, like, if you're feeling like you're giving up, if you're in year 3 and you're tired and the grind is wearing you down, you have 2 more years of grinding until you start seeing blue skies. And I firmly believe not just in entrepreneurship, not just in a job or a career, but if you dedicate your life 5 years to anything, at those 5 years, you're going to be damn good at it. And you're going to be in a whole nother place when you're done. So that's by the numbers.
The number was 5.
I mean, what do you think? Critique me.
Yeah, no, I like it, but I think, and I know we touched on this before when we were talking about this topic. It's the application, right? Because if you are in a business for 5 years, of course you're going to have tons of experience around you. You're going to see lots of things, but I think it's also how you apply yourself. If you educate yourself, if you live, eat, breathe, everything that's related to that, you get to that master level. And I think that's what Malcolm Gladwell was talking about, and Outliers when he was talking about the 10,000 hour rule, which has been bastardized and everybody's thrown this around and other people have, like shot bazookas through it with all these other examples. But I think within 5 years of doing something, you will at a minimum be at, the base range, unless you just suck and you hate what you're doing, right? Because that exists too. Let's be realistic about that, or you have tons of personal issues. But with that, I think if you do everything that you can master something within 5 years. Be a professional, like a true professional at it, and be bad at it and almost better than anybody else at it.
If you dedicate yourself for 5 years, you're going to change your life.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And what's cool about that too is you can shift careers almost at any time in your life. And within 5 years of solid application of really doing something, you can master something. So, and like, when you're, 60 years old, I mean, granted, let's say you start, when you're 20. But let's say that you're 60 years of mastery. Let's say that you live to 80 or whatever. I mean, that's 30 different things that you've been able to apply.
Well, let's say a more applicable.
That's completely wrong there. What the hell? Yeah, my math is like horribly wrong. There's 12 different things.
Let's imagine in a real world scenario, 2007 financial crisis hits. You're 45 years old. You've already put 25 years into a career. Your industry just got destroyed, and you have to start over. 5 years in a new career path, you're probably going to be right back, in that same level. I mean, you have to restart, you have to reset, or we're talking about this pandemic. I mean, give it 5 years of grinding and dedication, and you're going to, change your life trajectory. So that's the by the numbers, and I was really excited to do that. So now, we actually have 2 more questions for this live segment. You ready for this?
Really? Yeah. What do we got?
So we got Trent again asking, when it comes to time management, do you have a strategy in qualifying a client? I think that's a great question.
When it comes to time management, do you have a strategy when it comes to qualify? Yes, absolutely. So so you can do a few different things there. One, right, is the initialism is escaping me, but it's authority, budget, essentially time, right? Do those people meet those need? I think need is in there as well, right? So if they meet those types of scenarios. But I think at the end of the day, it's just having a direct conversation, right? So I'll just give you our sales process. So what we do is let's say that an email comes in, a lead through the website. We'll schedule an initial phone call. And that initial phone call could be as short as literally 10 minutes, or it could take, longer if it's something that is going to be worth our time. And then in that phone call, we want to understand if they're going to be a good fit for us. So we will discuss, all right, what does budget look like? If they can't give us a budget, because that's super, super important, right? It's the resource that's going to get things moving. If they can't give us a budget, that's when we're going to talk about, a strategy where we can determine a budget together, right? So we're going to research that together. It's a very collaborative process. If they do give us a budget, we can move forward with talking about the scope and the proposal of that. So I would say if in that first meeting you need to qualify them, it could be as short as 10 minutes. You get over the pleasantries, like where you live, the weather, so on and so forth, and just really getting in their world and being a good person. And then you get into the business side of things. So after that, you should know within 10 minutes to a half an hour whether you're going to move forward with that person. And granted, you want to get to that lead as quick as possible. As soon as that comes in, 5 minutes. Like we had some sales questions the other day. Somebody said for a new hire that within 24 hours. Now, 24 hours, they're contacting everybody else. The first person that gets to that lead is the one that's going to win it. And if you're already committed on some other work, the reality of the situation is you're not going to be able to get to them. Just get to them as soon as you can. Spend at least a half an hour and figure out if you're going to be able to move forward with that deal.
So I think you got to be unafraid to just straight up ask some uncomfortable questions, right? I mean, I have spent earlier in my career, I spent tons of time dancing around what's the budget, scared to put down a number and scare away the lead. And then it's just right off the bat, if I hear things like, I want this thing like Facebook, or I want this like this dating app, or, and they name, if they're dropping big names, I instantly say, Facebook probably spends $200 million a year on their app, right? Or, Google has spent 10 years developing that, right? I mean, because I have heard, I want something just like X. You know how many projects we've had there? I want to do a blank for or an Uber-like app for blank industry. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, Uber spends with a B billions of dollars on their app. So what's your budget? Because if you're not funded like Uber, you're not going to have an Uber-like anything for any industry. I mean, and
there's other ways to get to that, right? So, and I want to thank Leanna Walters, right? It's BANT. That's why I couldn't think of the acronym: Budget, Authority, Need, Timing. I think I said them in a mixed order, like I was saying, like MANTA. Or
all right, way to go, Leanna.
Thank you so much, Leanna. But to that, right? So, budget can be discovered tons of other ways where it makes it more comfortable, right? You don't have to, because we'll start with, all right, can you give us a budget? They're now it's like, okay, well, what do you want to accomplish? This is what I want to accomplish. Well, that would probably cost around like 150 grand to do that. Are you willing to spend that much money? It's like, okay, cool. All right, well, you got the budget. All right, right on. So you can move forward. But also, I mean, speaking to the authority, like, are you the decision maker? What is your, and they're like, they'll say yes. They're like, okay, or maybe they don't. It's like, all right, well, what does your buying process look like? Unpacking that so you understand, like, all right, what are all the layers? Like, if there's 20 stakeholders in there, you need to amount for that time in your quote based on your sales process, because that deal is going to take substantially longer than if you're just selling to one lady that's trying to, buy, a new dev project.
Well, I mean, and you got to trust your gut a bit. I mean, how many, my gut tells me within the first 5 minutes of talking to someone if this is legit. I mean, I guess I can be wrong. I guess there's plenty of times that maybe but I mean, for the most part, if it sounds like bullshit, I mean, it's probably going to be bullshit, and you can kind of figure it out by keywords they drop, like, I don't know. It's your gut. You got to trust your gut.
What's that? Stuff like that. when people say like, I want to 10x this,
Oh
or
God.
I'm a guru at
Anyone
this
that
now.
X's anything, just that curls under my skin. I'm like, oh God, go to
Yeah.
Silicon Valley.
But I think to the point of the uncomfortable questions, it's like those are, yeah, like how much can you spend on us? Like you have to be direct about that approach. Where if the person doesn't, if they think they're calling, a place where they offer some hobby that they get things for free, they made the wrong phone call. You need to let them know that this is a business, this isn't a clubhouse, and then
We do
for that.
serious work.
Yep. And then there's money that has to be exchanged for these services, and also let them know what your sales process is. I think that's super important. Like I tell them, like, all right, we're going to have a series of, conversations. One is going to be on this call where we're going to decide that we're going to be a good fit. On the next call, we're going to determine, what the path is going to be, moving forward. And then on that path, we may give you a quote. It'll be verbal. If you accept that verbal, then we will move over to the, the proposal process. At no point are we ever going to just send you a proposal without having a conversation about the price, because we do not get paid for proposals.
I also like making sure that you build that proposal in a way that explains the, kind of bricks of what you're building. I mean, I don't ever just say it's going to be this one number for this whole project. Like, this base, piece is going to cost this much, and then that, if we do come over a little budget, they can say, all right, we don't really need the CRM integration, or we don't really need this, or we can live without that for phase one. I love taking a phased approach too. So
concessions. Yeah, I completely agree. Like, what can we take out to get your budget, and also educating them on how they got to that number. Another thing too in our sales process, I'm happy you brought that up. We will create a spreadsheet that shows how we got to that number. And for everybody that we bill hourly, we're not we don't do like value-based pricing. So we're pretty clear with our clients based on where the hours go based on their projects, which I believe also it's helped us a lot, because there's all these companies that are kind of hidden based on what they're doing. And they're like, oh no, yeah, we're going to just give you this one for $1 million, this one for, 50,000, and then this one for 40,000. It's like, okay, well, cool. Right. They're going to go for the 50,000. Well, we don't really do that. It's a very collaborative process, how we determine the pricing, and clients thank us. They're like, oh, well, I really appreciate the way that you guys were so clear about what you're offered. Yeah, because we're confident, we're experienced. And that trust, because that's why people buy from each other, is created throughout every step of our sales process.
That value-based pricing with points and, things like that, that's like to me, that's like the common core of basic algebra. I mean, it's I expect my clients to be able to do the math. It's not that difficult. So I've never understood the point-based pricing. I've just saw, and you know what? I think we see that as a fad that's come and gone. What's that?
Yeah, I told you the story when I tried it, right? I was like, oh, this is smart. Yeah, because it's when not approaching that talking about pricing can be really uncomfortable. So I got the point system or whatever, and I set it up, and then I sat down with the client, and we're sitting down looking at it. And I slide the proposal over to him, and he's like looking at it. He's like scratching his head. He's like, what, you think I'm like stupid or something? He's like, yeah, and I think it was like a blog post and email, and he like called out with the numbers, like, you don't think I know algebra? I was like, oh, no, that's basic. Not what you do that. Dude, I totally had to fess up because I'm not the best liar. And I was like, oh, we're just trying this new system. He's like, no. He's like, and he like literally like writes down what the numbers are. He's like, okay, this is how much you're charging for each of these. He's like, clean this up and then we can move forward. Like, okay. And that was it. That was the last time I tried it.
Yeah, I've never tried it. Never even had the balls to do it. So
don't recommend it. But yeah, so those are the 12 points to get over a sales slump. Oh, we had another comment in here too. By Atlanta Walters. Like a bamboo seed, takes time. Lots going on underneath the soil before you see the growth above ground. Wow, that's poetic. I like that.
Yeah, I think that was that came in right after the buy the numbers, and I agree. I mean, that's 5 years of growing your foundation, and if you get that foundation built solidly, you're gonna be able to live off that. That's when you're going to see the change.
And along those lines, something else that's served me very well over, if we're going to talk about like the 5 years and doing something, is by the numbers, is you got to cut dead branches if you want a tree to grow. That's what reminded me. So if there are things in your life that are not working, I mean, unfortunately, like toxic people as well, like cut those dead branches and you will see things, begin to blossom. Some people call it dead weight, whatever it is, just if you want to talk about the physical thing in nature, gardening, that's how that works. Time for this rockets topic.
Boom.
Bingo, bango. All right. So today, what I want to talk about is the relationship between departments, right? So especially when it comes to design and development, there's a rift that usually happens there because they're two completely different functions that actually in some cases see the world in very different ways. One is trying to create something that is more emotive and emotional that people are going to tug at the heartstrings when they see, and on the other side, the other is trying to deliver function. Is there a crossover here? Of course there is. There's a ton of different correlations, but at the end of the day, you can take these two differences and one person is going to create something for emotion. The other person is going to create something for logic, right? All right, we got that. So what we see with a lot of agencies is that on the design side, they will create something, package up all these files, and just flip them over the proverbial wall over to the development team, right? Well, if you want to create, pretty things that sell, right? Essentially websites, apps, whatever that is, you have to have teamwork, right? And it sounds like a cliche, but the more that these two teams work together, the better. So what we've done that's been successful, and we've seen others that have done this because we sell to multiple agencies, our agency, is they bring us in at the beginning of that sales process. So let's say that you do all your design and your dev in-house, right? Well, you bring your designer and your dev together in the beginning of that sales process. You have a team selling approach based on the way that you quote your work. And then you have agreements throughout every step of the process. And what I mean by that is, so the designer and the developer commits to the price that's on that contract. They commit to what their deliverables are. We're going to do this, X number of templates, for a website, for instance. This is how many hours the design team is going to spend on that. This is what we're going to deliver over the development team. So they know exactly how much time they have to spend on it. And when both of those people are included in the decision-making process, literally everybody in the room, the buy-in on both sides creates spectacular projects where literally design tech equals love. It's a fantastic thing. So the takeaway there is involve your team in the entire process. Don't have your own pitch team that just creates something that the production team's not going to be able to see. Don't have just an account manager or a salesperson. Just work up a proposal that they're going to just try to jam into your production department. Involve everybody in that decision where they can see the work that's going to be coming down the line, where they can give their expert opinion because that's why you have them hired. And you will see your profitability go up as well as your morale. And down the line, the amount of sales you're going to be able to make based on this approach will continually turn into a perpetual flywheel, which I think is a bit redundant.
I absolutely love it. And I can attest that we had pain. It took pain to figure this process out, right? And once we got it, man, isn't life so much better? People are bought in. People are focused on what they need to do to deliver a project. There's no surprises. They saw it coming. And
what's done is a great thing.
Yeah.
So it's just like, all right, well, you can move out. So it's literally going down the production line. There's the example. It's a QC example. I can't remember where I heard it, based on when the Americans went over to Japan. I think it was like Toyota. And they said, well, like, why don't you have the guy at the end of the line there, checking all the cars? It's like, well, because we did it right the entire way through the process. And it's the same thing here. If you involve everybody else in the process, you don't have to continually pull in everybody else that was at the beginning, because as it goes down, you're essentially, pulling them out and everybody's happy at the end.
Plus, it's a team game. You put everybody in that team game mentality, and there's no finger pointing. There's no blaming. Did we do a good job as a team or did we not? We don't want, you don't want sales saying, well, we sold it. Hey, we did our job. Now figure out how to do it. Because if production's getting overwhelmed because the scope is blown. I mean, we all are familiar with scope creep, right? It's the worst part of any job. Scope creeps just sucks because expectations are not being met and, people are pissed off. So it really does help prevent scope creep because we kind of identify those unknowns before we sign a proposal. And not all sales isn't aware of all the technical, jargon or connections and, APIs and all the deeper level stuff that needs to be explored. So you have to involve the production team in that. And it works really well with us. in all my years in my career, I never really had this approach. This was an approach we kind of crafted, and it works really well. And
Out of
it came from
necessity
the
and
team.
failure, right? Like we literally were just like, okay, this is madness. Like looking at it, not judging the situation, just how can we make this better, involving the
Yeah.
team to make a decision. And that's how we came to it. And we've been working with other agencies on it, and they love it as well.
Creating a process that flat out says you cannot send a proposal to a client without a production team lead approving it. I mean, that was just flat out. We had to make a law, and it works.
Yeah,
it's great.
So, and on that note, I think that's all we have for today. Do you have anything else to add before we do some closing cleanup comments to our amazing audience here?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, excellent show today. I mean, to be able to get some audience interaction was awesome.
I love it. I love it.
Tell people, anyone that's watching that's a digital agency, I mean, get a peer group. We're Digital Mastermind Group. We're here to help. Follow us. We're going to do this every week forever, and hopefully we can help somebody out there every week.
Yeah, and anybody that's even in the business agency space or not, I mean, if you're in marketing or you're interested in sales or you're just in technology, share this show with somebody, tune in. Yeah, our aim is just to engage with you as much as possible to provide the best content and continually build on. And yeah, please like, share, comment. And if you have any other questions, feel free to just shoot me an email, john@digitalmastermind.com, if it's something that you don't want the whole world to see. I'd love to hear from you. All right. On that note, thank you so much, everybody.